I'm Angela Vigil, and I have no friends because I have to follow that. I'm so grateful. I had the great pleasure of being on planning calls with Yori and Sheer and listening to, knowing what was about to hit you. And that is what made me prepare this last quick summary, please. Reflection, hardly, but at least last few minutes between you and cocktails. Because I thought to myself, if I am lucky enough to be a mom that raises girls and boys like that, I'm gonna be a great parent. So, I asked my 4 kids, I said, okay, I have to do this thing, we're doing this thing, it's about fearless lawyering. And the word fearless has got me obsessed. I can't figure out what fearless really means. And here's the really hard part. We're supposed to look back on 20 years of fearless, and we're supposed to plan the next 20 years of fearless. And I have no freaking clue how to figure out how to be fearless, especially now. So I need your advice on what is fearless. And I asked my 15-year-old, and first I said, what are you fearless about? What are you fearful of? And she said, I am 15, I'm fearful of high school. And I'm in high school every day, and I said, well, how do you get over being fearful? She was like, well, I laugh it off, because that's what you do, you tell jokes. And I also probably, if high school is so frightening, I probably need a new cell phone to make sure I'm safe there, so you should probably give me one. As I listened to the day today, I realized that the answers of my children to this answer of what does it mean to be fearless was echoed in everything we heard. I heard, you should laugh it off. Martin proved us that the best way to talk about the disaster that is the immigration system is to let a comedian do it, and that John Oliver can do it better than any of us. I also learned what Paloma, my 15-year-old, told me about this cell phone. You gotta follow the money. Hassan Davis talking about following the money in order to figure out how it is we're gonna build those systems. I also realized that Paloma was talking about changing the motivation of the kids that she was fearful of, right? Just laugh it off. Walk down the hall and don't worry about what they're afraid of. And that idea of changing motivation and incentivizing people differently is what I learned from Sixto Cancel today. We don't just incentivize workers to do exactly what workers have always done. We build them systems and tools to incentivize them to act differently, and then they can incentivize youth to use them differently. Paloma and Sixto have a lot to teach each other because they're the same. I then asked my 10-year-old, I said, Lucia, what does fearless mean? Because we got to be fearless for the next 20 years. We have a lot to do. And she said, okay. I said, what are you fearful of? She's like, I'm 10, I'm in 5th grade. I'm 2 girls in a class of 22 boys in my gifted class. I'm not afraid of nothing. And she's not. And I thought about that as I was listening today. I learned that kind of fearlessness from Mike Tiger when he says, every time we stand up, we have to argue our case. Every single time, fearlessly, no matter who is listening. I learned from Sheer, I learned from everyone who said, not about us without us. We're gonna demand our space. I learned from James, we've gotta demand accountability in a system for people who are systemically insignificant and make them significant. I learned that the only way I can do that is through data, and I learned from Julia Wilson that data is everything, and data doesn't lie. We need to get more data because we measure what we value, and we value what we measure. And so if we don't measure how many kids need legal assistance, we won't give them legal assistance. And I also learned, as we discussed data through the day, that people that don't want to get the truth fight data. Liars don't want data, because data is truth. And that maybe part of being fearless over the next 20 years is demanding more data so we can demand more truth. But of course I didn't stop there because I have a lot of kids. So I asked Manolo, Manolo's 8. I said, Manolo, what are you fearful of? He said the ball, because he started baseball a little while ago, and he's just like the ball. Like whenever it comes anywhere near me, I just want to run. And I was asking him, just like the other kids, like, how do you think you get over that? And he's like, Mommy and Poppy. That's what I do. I go to mommy and papi. Actually, he meant run from the off the field to mommy and papi. We're working on that. Coach doesn't love it, but we're working on it. But that's what we heard today from Jennifer Rodriguez, who said, this is about love. He finds that strength in love. And from Liz, who told us about kids healing in homes. We heard that the magic of our system is parenting, and that the only way we're going to find that is by exercising this systemic scientific term of non-judginess. And if we don't, they're going to end up in foster care, which after all, at the end of the day, could be just as much of a cage as the juvenile justice system. And then I went to Cavo, whose 13th birthday was yesterday, and I said, what are you afraid of? And he said, 7th grade. Everything about 7th grade. And I said, how can you be fearless in 7th grade? He's like, you don't, you run. You run and you hide, and you wait till everybody gets older. And that is what I learned today in these panels. Treating kids like kids. Recognizing they are where they are. And they're gonna be scary at 13 and stupid. Oh, stupid. And they're gonna be, but they need to be listened to and they need to be loved. And that you need to think about mixing disciplines to solve the problem. And of course, Cavo's my gamer, and he is my imaginative, my true radical imagination. He came back to me later, he goes, wait, what do you really mean? What are you afraid of? Because if it's this, then I'll just imagine I'm somewhere else. And if it's this, then I might pretend like I'm in the middle of a video game. And if I'm this, and then I realized I was talking to Sixto Cancel again about multidisciplines, learning from different systems, crossing over to solve problems inside the child welfare system by using tools we never thought about using before. Executive coaching, any of you guys using executive coaching in your systems? Think of this as. I learned today so many things that were the themes of what my kids told me, and I realized that the genius of bringing a day together like this comes from the honor of being part of a community that thinks about what we can do better all the time. That there's not a single person in this room that does their job next week and goes, yeah, that was awesome. Next week, I'm just gonna do that again, because that was perfect. Nobody in this whole room, I know most of you, nobody. Whether you're in immigration, public benefits, education, special education, zero tolerance advocacy, juvenile justice, juvenile life without parole, death penalty advocacy, legal aid, you are all always trying to make things better. And that is what we have to do for the next 20 years. It has been a great honor of mine to be part of the Children's Rights Litigation Committee for a long part of my career. And one of the things that the American Bar Association gets to let us do is to come together and just stop for 5 minutes and think. The Children's Rights Litigation Committee gets to think about what the entire community needs and then recruit all of you to come and help us do it. And so when we said engagement czar this morning, we weren't kidding. Tracy, where are you? Tracy, look at Tracy. Look at Tracy. Tracy, if you have not gone to see Tracy and said, this is how I want to engage, or you know what, heck no, I'm too busy, I got stuff to do, but I'm going to have somebody else engage on this. I want my department to engage on this. I want my entity. We need you to guide us on what the Children's Rights Litigation Committee should be doing going forward, or we simply shouldn't go forward at all. There's no reason for committees of bar associations to meet, to repeat things that were done year after year after year. We don't have time for that. That's what we learned, and that's what we heard, and that's the most important thing I learned from Yori and Sheer. Other thing that we need to do is to recognize that nobody knows the brilliance of the people that come together on panels like you heard today unless they listen to every single thing that we do and really follow the projects that go on throughout the children's law community. And I seriously know of no single human being that does that better in the world than my good friend, who you better clap and cheer for, Catherine Krebs. Yes! She's an example of fearless mothering and fearless lawyering, and so inspires all of us. I just want to make sure that as we're thinking about this, though, we give ourselves a little bit of a challenge as well. You get to cocktails as soon as we figure out what are the next two most important, next things that we should all do together as a community. And I think we have to ask ourselves two questions. Are we going to help And are we not going to harm? A lot of the parts of today were really good, gentle. I mean, thank you, everybody, for being so gentle to each other, while we basically accused of each other of creating an industrial complex for which we all owe our jobs, for being part of the problem in almost, half the states in the United States, right? We got to make sure we're not doing harm at the same time. The purpose of today is to say, next week is Mother's Day. It's also graduation from law school for a lot of lawyers across the country. A lot of people are going to walk out the doors of law school, and they're going to wish they had a better plan, but they don't in this economy. So they're going to wonder what they can do to be a children's rights lawyer. Children's rights lawyer. We need to figure out what they should do. That may not be just taking a job in a great big office, in a great big system, in a great big complex. And it surely can't be coming and working for us if we don't figure out new sources of funding, and it certainly can't be coming and working for all of us if we can't come up with new and creative solutions, whether it's technology or really thoughtful engagement in different disciplines like we talked about today. Fearless lawyering for somebody who is in the class of 2018 has got to look different, and we've got to guide them there. It looks different to be a lawyer today than it ever has. You can say that every year. It's an easy line. But when I say that to you, I imagine everybody in this room is sitting here thinking about the day they walked out of law school and how the landscape looked different. Well, the landscape's going to look exactly the same as it does today if we don't think about better things for them to do with our leadership and how we teach them to be fearless. I've learned to be fearless over 23 years of representing children from so many of you in this room. And it is my goal in the next 20 to try to help be part of a tiny, tiny part of helping new lawyers be fearless and doing it with all of you. On behalf of the committee and the section of litigation, thank you so much for being part of today. And please, let's go toast out on the veranda.